Mr. McGee, don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
You are about to listen to the Totally Super Awesome 80s Reboot Overdrive podcast.
This podcast is our fan tribute to the Incredible Hulk TV show. Be advised that has been exposed to radiation and we caution to listen at your own risk. You have now entered GammaCast.
Hello and welcome to the GammaCast. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser. And with me, as always, is my beautiful, witty, intelligent, erudite, and fantastic friend...
80s Music Girl.
Hey, 80s Music Girl. Always glad to have you on board for tonight's episode, The Incredible Hulk, Season 4, Episode 13, The First, Part 2. First air date, March 13th, 1981.
That was my birthday.
Really?
Yes.
You were born March 13th, 1981?
1960.
Oh,
I was 21 years old.
Okay. Well, so that's a very special birthday for you to go out and enjoy the evening as the Incredible Hulk played on a nearby TV.
Absolutely.
We can all imagine what a joyous evening that was for you. Okay. That is when you went from being an 80s music girl to being an 80s music woman. There we go. Okay. Now that Del Fry has reawakened his gamma-powered creature, Dr. Banner races against time to synthesize an antidote, which may also rid him of the Hulk. Frank Arsati did our direction this episode. Kenneth Johnson and Andrew Schneider, again, are the writers. Okay. So, this episode opens up with basically Fry Hulk being a big jerk. Just tearing down trees, throwing big old boulders at baby deers. Yeah, man.
Terrible.
Yes, he is a dangerous man. He is clearly filled with anger, rage, and gamma radiation. Not a good combination, to be sure. David, of course, tracks down the Hulk. I guess he knows how to think like a Hulk, knows where to go, or maybe he just followed the trail of pushed down trees.
There you go.
And he is there for Fry's transformation back into a real boy. And David tells him, I haven't, and we get Fry basically saying, this did it, this cured my arthritis. And which is a great point there about, you could see this idea of like, look, I'm in pain and I know this can help me if I can just be a Hulk one last time. That Hulk healing will save me.
Yeah.
But then David says, well, I have enough for 2 cures. And he's like, yeah, that's okay. He would rather be a Hulk. Which is not good, given how dangerous of a person he is. Which we've already seen when he's like trying to throw a boulder at a Bambi.
I know. What a mean old so-and-so.
Yeah, he is. And we get a nice play on the "you wouldn't like me when I'm angry" line here when...
I know. When David's words coming back to bite him.
Yeah, Harry Towns basically tells him, you wouldn't like it when I get angry, And it's true. And, I'm sure from Del Fry's perspective, David Barr needs to grow up, He feels that, like, hey, look, I wanted this power. You don't want it, that's fine. Go cure yourself. No one's stopping you.
Yeah.
But I want to be the Hulk. But, of course, David knows this Hulk is not like his Hulk.
Yeah.
And I do think there is something to be said there that, if nothing else, there's some revelation here that, a man of lesser character
Mm-hmm.
acquiring hulking powers
Yes.
is definitely bad news.
Mm-hmm.
So now David has to try to figure out how to get the potion into Fry. Meanwhile, Fry is just full of the joy of a new Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
And he immediately goes out to the local bar to antagonize some local toughs.
Yeah.
As you do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's smelling his oats, as my grandma used to say.
Yeah, and again, it's this unearned cockiness of knowing you have a Hulk in your back pocket.
I know.
But again, these are the reasons why, we accept the idea
Mm-hmm.
that David Banner is a better Hulk, that David Banner is a better person, and the Hulk, while his anger is better controlled by
Mm-hmm.
David Banner.
Yes.
Okay. So, Fry is antagonizing the men in the bar. The men in the bar are about to get themselves a free Hulk show when the sheriff shows up. And
Yeah.
we saw before this, the men in the bar were complaining about the sheriff arresting the two kids who attacked David.
Yeah.
And who set the fire on at the Clive house.
Yeah.
Because they are juvenile delinquents. Full stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we can see this is a town full of juvenile delinquents, of people that
Mm.
are more than willing to react out of fear
Mm-hmm.
than to take a moment to understand what is going on.
Yes.
But then again, one can make the very strong argument that this is a town in which a guy got his arms and legs ripped off in front of people by a Hulk. Maybe they're duly more cautious. It's hard to say which is which.
6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Yes. So David goes to Elizabeth to basically explain the plight, come out completely clear with her.
Yeah.
And she agrees to give David the space and the equipment to synthesize this cure.
Yeah.
Which he does.
Mm-hmm.
And then they've got to get it to not only Fry, but get it to Fry when he's in close enough proximity to the castle that they can run him right up into the castle, turn on the machine, and take away his gamma powers.
Right.
Meanwhile, who should show up in town but good old Jack McGee?
Jack McGee!
Well, because there have been Hulk sightings, but, for what it's worth, the sheriff, remembers those Hulk sightings.
Mm-hmm.
He remembers that, the Hulk had been around for 30 years, and he knows that whatever this Hulk is that Jack Colvin is chasing, it's probably not the same Hulk.
Right.
And then in the meantime, while David and Elizabeth are working on a cure, and Jack Colvin is pestering the cop about the Hulk, the Hulk makes another appearance at the bar as Dale Fry decides to harass people once again.
He's out for blood this time.
Well, because for what it's worth, Dale Fry clearly wants to Hulk out. He prefers to be a Hulk. And this is, I think, the most telling aspect of that is you see when he does Hulk out in this scene, he's got the biggest smile on his face. This was exactly what he wanted.
Oh, yeah.
And so after antagonizing and then promptly getting punched by the local cowboy Roddy, Um, They, of course, throw him into another room because,
Yes.
we're all Hulk shy.
That's exactly.
It's just good manners. You go into the other room if you're going to Hulk out.
Absolutely. Or down a well, or
Yeah, you got to be out of sight. Nobody wants to see you hulking. That's the
Yeah.
moral of the story. But he comes out fully hulked and then proceeds to murder 2 of the bar patrons.
Yeah. What's that all about?
Straight up murder them. Well, but and that's the thing this is what David has always feared, is that the Hulk has that power to kill. Even if David Banner convinces himself he will not kill, the Hulk has that power.
Yes.
And this is where we get to see what would happen with a Hulk that didn't have a moral compass the way Banner does.
Yeah.
So, the monster has murdered these people. And this is one of the things I think was great about this episode. We have Jack doing reportage, goes up to the fat guy who was in the bar at the time, who basically does the hard math and says no one else was in the storage room when the giant, when the Hulk emerged.
Right.
So now David is convinced this guy is the Hulk. Although again, it's one of these weird things about assumptions of belief. Now he does know Jack, or he does know John Doe from the John Doe episodes.
Yeah.
You would think he'd be more trusting of it, but when he does meet Del Fry, he immediately starts explaining to him why he can't be the Hulk, because he's not physically fit enough, because the hair isn't correct. But what's weird about it to me is that Jack isn't giving up the illusion that he's found the Hulk. He just thinks something has happened to him that make him look different. So it's a very weird and strange tale from that perspective. I do apologize if I'm rambling, folks. I am up way past my bedtime tonight.
No, you actually brought up a really good point about Jack McGee, and the fact that he, the first part, where he goes to Elizabeth, and after he gets the information, and he just storms in there, and I thought, oh, is she going to play the shrinking violet? No, she's going to give him his crap right back to him and tell him to get out. Good girl. There you go. How dare you just walk in here and demand to see a Hulk? Who do you think you are?
You don't get
Jack McGee?
Yeah, you don't get people calling you Queen Elizabeth for nothing, is what we can take
Absolutely.
away from But like I said, I mean, it is a great thing in this scene where we actually see people be able to put the 2 and 2 together as to, well, there was only one guy in that room, and if anyone was transforming into a Hulk, it would have been that other guy, even if it's not the guy that Jack McGee thinks it is, which leads him to confront Del. Although just prior to this, Del had a moment with the sheriff where he basically tells him, get out of town before sundown.
Yeah. I'm running you out.
Yeah, well, it is an Old West tale.
This is true.
And it makes sense that, here's this person who is a real threat to, because here's what it comes down to. I think the sheriff knows that Del's the monster.
Yeah.
He can't prove it.
No.
But he's still the cop, and so and what he offers Del is a pretty sweet gig when you think about it. It's like,
absolutely.
Leave town,
get out, never look back.
Never look back, and that's a pretty good deal, especially if you do not have a lot of happy memories tied back to your childhood. In whatever town you happen to be in that you are now leaving. So, say go find a new life and take your monster with you. Not the best option being put forward, or not the worst option being put forward to Del.
No.
And what amazes me in that is Del decides to take it. Because when Jack shows up, he is in fact packing up his suitcase.
Yeah, he is. Well, we remember the scene where he tried to, I think that had a lot to do with it too. Once they kind of slipped that little tidbit of information, oh yeah, Dell kind of liked, Elizabeth too, a little bit, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
It's all hulky now, no pun intended. And, he's like, oh, I'm different, I'm so much better now. The arthritis is gone. I'm as strong as an ox, and we can get together, right? And she's like, no.
No,
It
probably not.
like you,
Yes.
like Dr. Clive, still don't like you.
Yes.
So I think he actually took that a lot better than I thought he would. But then again, like I said, they just kind of slipped that in as a side story. Like, oh, by the way.
Yeah. But, I could totally see Dell being a creeper in that way,
Oh,
not taking the hint for the last 40 years. And I can also see, arguably, Elizabeth, really trying to maintain decorum.
yes.
Yes,
she did good, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've achieved that to some extent in the idea that he is, Dell at this point is a candy-filled lecher, and Elizabeth is not.
Yes.
But all she has to do is say, "Sure, why not?" And
He's there.
Yeah, he's there. He's there. Not before beating the heck out of Jack McGee, who threatens him with a dart gun.
I was like, that's what I remember. It's like, where does Jack get off trying to take somebody in? What do you got, a trank gun on you or something? What's that gonna do?
Yeah, well, that's what he's got to do. He's got to get his trank gun
Yeah,
out.
well.
Yeah. Anyway, so, where was I? So,
Jack gets beat up.
David has come to. They make their plan to defeat the Proto Hulk, and they invite him to Castle Frankenstein, where apparently our hero has opted to. I've lost my train of thought. He is so. Who am I talking about here? Okay.
David, the hero.
Yes, David the hero.
Yeah.
David has opted to plot to take down Fry. They're going to give him his injection, but they have to do it when they are at the lab because you have to use the serum and the gamma rays in conjunction. And basically, Elizabeth acts as bait, lures Dell to her home, and then David sneaks up and gives him a big old shot.
Yeah.
And you can see how mad Dell is right there. But then, and they get into just a standard fight, but of course, Elizabeth saves the day by hitting him in the back of the head with a fire poker.
Good shot.
Yes. They take him back to the lab. They explain why David isn't going to do himself first.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because when you go through this, it's going to knock you out for 24 hours, and I will not be responsible for what Dell may do in 48 hours.
Absolutely.
Anyway. So they have knocked out Dell. They take him back to the lab. They put him in the leather restraints, and then he starts to come to, and he's begging them and begging Elizabeth specifically not to pull the, not to put him through this. And David is telling her to pull the lever to release the gamma rays, and Dell is begging her not to, and then she eventually finds the strength, and she lifts the handle, which sends the gamma rays flushing onto our victim. However, he goes into mid Hulk out at that same moment.
Yeah. I thought that was a bit unfortunate.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's unfortunate for the story, but good for those watching it.
Yeah.
Yes. And while he is in this giant tree mode, he breaks David's vial of the antidote.
That was so heartbreaking.
It really, really was, the idea that, this guy has fought his whole life and, just gets so close and to have it taken away from him by this Hulk, who again we know is just being a jerk.
He's a jackass.
There's not really an argument to say he wasn't a jerk smashing the vial, but we get to see, as I said, this nice parallel between the first episode when, Del hulks out because he is so mad about the possibility that he won't get his powers.
Yeah.
And here David is hulking out because he knows that now he won't be cured.
Yeah.
And this, of course, leads to a really good brawl between our two Hulks.
Nice. It was a good one.
But as it turns out, obviously he had been weakened by the formula because in walks the sheriff and shoots him in the back. And we get to see him slowly transform back to Del Fry, and Cap and his Avengers run off. Cause, I'm sorry, I'm flipping into the comic book. You can see I'm falling asleep here. Oh goodness.
You are.
Yeah,
it's funny.
I'm sorry.
It's running off now.
Yeah, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. 80s Music Girl is on the West Coast. I'm on the East Coast, so she is tanned and rested and ready to go, and I am falling asleep as we're talking. So my apologies. 80s Music Girl, do you want to wrap up this episode before I make a bigger fool of myself?
I sure do, but it's only because I love you so much.
Thank you.
This whole episode, part 1 and 2, is very intriguing because you see, the past and the present, and you see a man who suffered his whole life, and all he wants to do is make things better for himself, but for all the wrong reasons. And you see David, who is a victim of his own circumstances, and he did it to himself. He understands that. So all he's wanting is a cure, but he understands the trials and the tribulations that the Hulk's gone through. And he somehow thinks in the beginning that he could possibly share some life lessons with this gentleman who at this point in his life is beyond retribution. So David knows now to not really trust him. And it's just, the second half of this is just so poignant because you see the self-provoking Hulk out that Dale does. You see him coming out of the storm, and I swear to God, when he threw his arms up like that, I'm like, oh, Morrissey's breaking into song. And I just, are you kidding me? Yeah, he was like, hello, everybody, I'm here. Yes. But, so then he ends up taking out people that have wronged him in the past, which, you don't revenge. You don't do revenge. It's just not a thing has a good turnout for anybody. And then, when the Hulk fight, to me, it actually kind of, if episodes or any movies that you see, like, what's a really good food fight? Was that Animal House?
Yes.
Yeah, when the guy shouts food fight, you were like, Hulk fight!
Yes.
It's crap's throwing everywhere, and tables are broken, and snobs are, it was just, yes. And she's just like, how she didn't get hit with any of that, I'll never know. She must have had a really good bird's eye view of that whole thing.
Oh, so. Yeah. Well, maybe this is not her first Hulk fight,
It is? We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
But yeah, it was sad that, that old Hulk had to get taken out, but it was, as we all saw, it was for the best.
Yeah, and
because he wasn't going to stop.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, it is a little. It's interesting to see the Hulk taken down by just a gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess we can write that up to the advanced age of the Hulk, the fact that he did have the anti-Hulk serum in his body even as he had Hulked out, so that you arguably could have said this was going to be his last Hulk out regardless.
Right.
And although one thing that I do think about in this is it's an interesting dynamic that we don't actually get in the series much, but has been touched on in the comics a lot, which is this idea that in the comics, Bruce Banner, the Hulk, cures himself from time to time. Where he says, I'm cured and I will never be the Hulk again. And then usually within that same issue, it's like, well, now I guess I gotta be the Hulk again because I've got to save the day.
Yeah.
And it's all well and good for David to sit there with the powers of a Hulk to say the power of a Hulk is too dangerous, we have to find a cure. And it's another thing to say to the guy who has been cured, who has been missing the Hulk in his life since, for the past 30 years.
Yeah.
And, how that relationship between the person and the Hulk really exists. Now, in this case, obviously, the man was much more of a sociopath, but I kind of can't help but think that if the Hulk had gotten himself cured, if he might not have sought a re-empowering afterwards. You know what I mean? Because I think it's hard to walk away from that kind of power.
Yeah.
And I think that is something we're going to see next episode, where David Banner truly wrestles with this question of, if I think the Hulk can heal me, why wouldn't I rather be a Hulk?
Yeah.
And that's going to be, and I believe it's called Free Fall next week. Oh no, it's called The Harder They Fall.
Okay.
Because folks are going to be
falling
hard.
We did Free Fall already.
Yes. And in the meantime, I'm going to try and get some rest so that I'm a little bit better suited for next week's recording. In the meantime, 80s Music Girl, if people wanted to find you, ask you how you put up with such a sleepy-headed person who talks in his sleep during the middle of a podcast, so professional, where can they reach out to you to commiserate with you?
That's too funny. Oh, I am at 80s Music Girl on Twitter. I have an 80s Music Girl fan page on Facebook and 80s Music Girl on Instagram.
Awesome. And, of course, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way, the way our Maz and Paz once did, at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And, of course, follow me on the Twitters as I live tweet this very show, 7 o'clock on Saturdays. That's The Incredible Hulk is the show I live tweet, not my podcast, which would be a weird thing to live tweet since it's not actually live. But you can follow me on Twitter as I do these things. At Charlie Esser, that's CharlieEssser. Look for the 2 E's right there in the middle for quality. Thank you for hulking out with us, ladies and gentlemen. Please hulk out with us again. Good night.
We hope you've enjoyed this show. This podcast is part of the 80s Reboot Overdrive channel on Southgate Media Group. You can follow us on Facebook on the 80s Reboot group page. We're also on Twitter and Tumblr at 80s Reboot. We invite you to check out all the wonderful podcasts and blogs available at southgatemediagroup.com. And thank you for reliving the 80s.